There we go. Hey, Doug is first. Brian, nice to see you here. We are live. Hopefully everything works. And just need to adjust the camera angle just a little bit here tonight, but got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. First off, let me get started. But here, let me pull this up. Should have had this one page. I'm like, I haven't had this pulled up yet. All right, there we go. Now we're ready to go. A little bit of last minute preparations here tonight, but I talked about recently, like, I'm going to move my live stream time to Friday. I tried that once or twice. There might still be some other Friday live streams throughout the summer, just when it makes more sense. But I think in generally speaking, the Thursday night live streams are going to be like the more consistent time, the more regular time. Thursday nights, U.S. time, so whatever that works out to in your time zone. Of course, you can always watch after the fact on YouTube. Tune in that way if you can't make it live. Can't be like in the chat that way. But yeah, anyways, nice to see you, Eric, Modern Day Tech. Yes, I walked into your office, Doug. And guess who walked into my office, so to speak? Not really. Last week, I posted on Instagram stories, I got an invite to the ALEXA Plus. So I've been spending a week with the new ALEXA Plus voice assistant. And, it's, I have a lot of thoughts. I'll probably turn it into some kind of a YouTube video at some point in the near future, but I think there's some initial impressions I just wanted to share here on the live stream. And I think there's a lot of people who think that this kind of a thing, whether it's from Amazon or Apple or Google or whoever, it's going to be like the next greatest thing in smart home tech, right? That if we just get an LLM and a series of those kinds of, GPT systems powering our voice assistants, then finally everything will be way better. And I think smart home tech is actually in a pretty good place as it is. And the improvements of this, for as drastic of a technological shift as I think it might be in certain ways, it's the improvements are not like earth-shattering, right? It doesn't completely revolutionize your voice assistant. It makes it smarter in certain ways, and it makes it harder for it to mess up certain commands. So I think in general, it's definitely a step forward. But I don't think it's going to be something where you're going to have it be going off and performing a lot of tasks for you in the background, or be some kind of agent, doing a bunch of things with your calendar. But it is just smarter at understanding the context of what you're asking, which I think is nice. There's some more layers to kind of how Amazon's redoing the UI for the Echo Show devices. I have the big 24-inch display one. And it's in certain ways better, in certain ways worse. There's still that like annoying, it's now even harder to get rid of that annoying content that Amazon always wants to show you, of like that like suggestion box where they'll show you deals, or, you could launch your family photos, or you could do stuff. And some of this stuff is just hard to talk about without actually showing you. So I'm not going to go too much into the details here, but I just wanted to say, like, I've been using ALEXA Plus from Amazon, and it's pretty cool, but it's not like an earth-shattering change that's going to, it's not, I think it's worth being excited for when Apple does this kind of thing. And I'm sure just every company's going to have their clever takes and clever little ways they tie this into the rest of the stuff you do. So I'm excited to see whatever Apple does in this space as well. But again, I don't think we should look at it as some amazing silver bullet that's finally going to make smart home automation. There's a lot of people who think smart home automation hasn't arrived, right? And it's waiting for that one moment where it will finally be a thing that everybody loves. And I think it's already here. It's just a matter of people, the future's already here. It's just not evenly distributed. I think there's so much with smart home tech that's really great right now. You don't need an LLM powering your voice assistant to take advantage of a lot of cool smart home tech stuff. And this does make it better, but it's not going to change the world in a dramatic way. I'm going to say hi to some folks in the chat. Enough on ALEXA Plus for now. Shane, thanks for tuning in. I was actually catching up on your live stream earlier today. So good to see you. Buddy, hello from Waco. Yes, great place. I've never been there, but Waco seems really cool. Obviously, it's all over TV with Chip and Joanna Gaines. Hello from South Texas, Roberto. Thanks for tuning in. And from hot Georgia, Jeff. Yeah, it's we've had our share of hot weather here, but it's nothing compared to, I'm sure, Georgia and Texas and South Carolina. Some of you folks tuning in from much warmer places. But yeah, it's certainly summer weather. So we have a bunch of news. I like to kind of go through and hit some of the news or other interesting bits and pieces we actually haven't gotten to from WWDC or other stuff that got left out of previous live streams. And if you're watching this after the fact, I'm going to try and do a better job of actually putting the links to the things I'm talking about in the description of the live stream. So if you're watching live, you'll just see it live. But then if you're watching after the fact, you can check out the description for the links. So moving to the next topic after ALEXA, we got some people discovering in the betas with iOS 26, there are, in fact, some new features coming to HomePod. So nothing too crazy, but it's definitely nice to get this auto mix crossfade, which has been in various iterations of iTunes and Apple Music over the years. Basically means that if you're playing music, it'll, transitions quickly and smoothly between two different songs. So if you're having background music on at a party, something like that, it can be kind of nice to have that transition be a little smoother. And so now HomePod gets that. There was another... Okay, so there were two features, and I thought this article had both features, but it's just talking about the crossfade. I must have read another article that I forgot to add here. Oh, no, here it is. Yes. You can also select, this is it, the new Wi-Fi network for your HomePod to connect to. So this can be kind of nice if you have a smart home network for your Wi-Fi. This might be the first time Apple's really doing anything to support that from a software perspective. So that's nice that now you have that option inside of settings. So yeah, we got some new HomePod features. Now, another cool thing that this is something to keep in mind, not a cool thing. We'll get to a cool thing in a second, but just a heads up that your Apple TV hardware may or may not support the new Liquid Glass UI. It's really only for the Apple TV 4K second generation or newer. And I'll show you an Apple support page that helps you identify what Apple TV generation you have in just a second. But, of course, you need the more powerful graphics processor and some of the newer chips with Apple TV to get that new look. In and of itself, I don't know if that's worth an upgrade. I think having a faster, better smart home hub, if it's your only Apple TV at home, would certainly be worth it. And there's the other feature that's also not available to these older models is the iPhone karaoke support, which is where you can use an iPhone as a microphone and then have kind of like a karaoke party where it shows the lyrics on the screen of the music, play through, it plays through it, which I could see that being kind of fun with get a group of friends together. You can have karaoke right on your Apple TV. Again, not worth necessarily in and of itself the upgrade to a new Apple TV, but all the other features, the newer versions of Thread, things like that might push you over the edge. So how do you know what generation you have? The second and third generations come with the new metal remote, right? So if you remember before this metal remote, they had, this is the very old metal remote. This is not what I'm talking about. This is the Apple TV third generation. I need to scroll up. So here's the latest Apple TV that you could buy today. Of course, there's the Wi-Fi plus Ethernet option and the Wi-Fi only option. So if you have this remote and it came with your Apple TV, then you're fine. But of course, you can upgrade because here's the second generation and it came with this remote. Now, of course, when this remote came out, you had the option to upgrade the remote on a previous generation Apple TV to the new one. And if you did that, you might have the new remote with an old Apple TV, but that's the old remote. So if you remember getting your Apple TV, if it came with this kind of a trackpad diving board remote with the menu button and things on the top, that's unfortunately not going to support liquid glass. So Apple TV 4K first generation will not support. And then you can also usually look in the settings about, I think it's under System About in Apple TV. It'll tell you sometimes your model number, and so the model numbers here on this web page then can correspond to the model number you might have in your Apple TV, and then help you know to confirm if you do in fact have an older Apple TV or not. So heads up, if you're hoping to always have the latest and greatest software from Apple, you might need to upgrade your Apple TVs. I'm going to say hi to some folks in the chat, answer some comments, and then we'll get to the next thing on the list. Something cool. Oh, yes. You've been melting all day, Brian. Yeah, we have about the same weather, Brian and I, Michigan and Illinois. I would be really surprised, Robert, if Russell leaves Petronas, Mercedes-AMG Racing. I think Toto will find a way to keep him around. I mean, Kimi Antonelli is clearly doing so well, but we'll talk about Formula One more in just a minute. Yeah. Hello, Danny from Australia. Thanks for tuning in. Got another viewer from Australia. That's fun. Fun to see how people are all over the world tuning in, and Smart Home Tech is worldwide. Good evening. No worries, Saul. Yeah, I started a little later and scheduled this a little bit last minute. Today I decided instead of doing a stream tomorrow, I was going to do it tonight. So no worries on being late, man. It's all good. Glad to have you here. Speaking of someone who has plenty of excuses for being late, George, I'm so sorry to see your Instagram story about your nasty bike accident. As I mentioned in messages, I had a bad bike accident, not as bad as yours, but close to that level in high school. And it's not fun just having to go to the ER and get all kinds of things like stitches and deal with, broken parts of your body and having it all heal over a long time. So wishing you a smooth recovery. I know you'll get through it, but it's not fun. So but thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we can keep you entertained and forget about a little bit of that pain. It's 97 degrees in Kennesaw, Georgia. Man, yeah, hot outside of hot Atlanta. Yeah. Actually, fun fact, I don't remember much of it because I was very young, but I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, and lived there until I was 2. So I've been back a couple of times, don't really have many family members back there, many other reasons to go back to Atlanta. But it's a great city, great area. Yes, I'm sure, man, to not have AC then would be almost like not having heat here in the winter. It's just really rough. So hopefully people can stay cool down there. Rob, yes, good evening. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we got a lot of great, as I say, sometimes it's fun to be here with the mic talking in these live streams, but I also enjoy how much those of you who are creators and those of you who are just into smart home tech, the knowledge of people we have here in this chat room is really impressive. So in some ways, in a lot of ways, this is just as much a conversation between me and you guys in the chat with great opinions and ideas. So, yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Brian as well, just being a lot of smart home people here and smart creators. My theory is Apple intentionally didn't reveal any of my home stuff at WWDC because they want as much as possible for the next event. Hi from Australia. Man, we got a lot of folks from Australia tonight. That's really exciting. So, yeah, it's... Sorry, my glasses are bothering me right now, but probably need to clean them better. Anyways, I can see that reasoning. I mean, I think clearly Apple's working, the rumors point to Apple's working really hard on smart home tech stuff, right? And the rumors also, according to Gurman and other sources, point to that a lot of it's linked to a lot of the new Siri architectural updates, right? Where they're changing a lot of how their assistant works under the hood and tying it to more things across the system, allowing it to understand more about your personal context as you ask those questions, right? So, I mean, a lot of like the things that Amazon is shipping with their ALEXA Plus, we were talking about at the front of the show, as I'll probably talk about at some point in a video, playing with that, which has been fun to have it now for about a week, but it's you can... it is more intelligent about things like looking at your calendar, right? And seeing different events. I have my Google Calendar tied into there, and I can ask it questions about upcoming events, and it can understand more complex things that maybe, something like a HomePod wouldn't understand today. And so I can see why Apple might want to tie some of it to it, but it's a bummer for us. It sounds like the hardware of this new smart home display is ready to ship, but the software is not there. And that's kind of thing where, I think the folks at Amazon and also in a certain way now Apple would love to think of all these amazing, technically complex use cases of why someone would want a smart home display in their kitchen or living room or whatever. And yeah, there are some of those, and I think it's worth striving for those things. Like, it's worth these companies pushing hard, right, to make all these difficult things come true, because eventually they will get to a really great place. But a huge amount, I think, of people who use an Echo Show or a Google Nest Hub at this point, and probably also for Apple's smart home display, will be using it to show photos, see a visual timer, and see a clock with the date and the weather. And if you can have, and then also, some quick access to some touch controls for their smart home, maybe some other related things. And we talked about last week in the live stream, maybe it was last week or the week before, kind of these app snippets that Apple's launching with the new releases coming in the fall that they announced at WWDC, and some other things that kind of point to maybe some architecture that Apple's been building over the years that can allow that kind of stuff to work on a smart home display. But I think to then also say that, well, in order for a smart home display to be useful, that it must also have this contextual, super smart voice assistant that knows way more than the current HomePod about your life and can piece together, different things. It seems like, yeah, that'd be cool, but I don't know if it needs to launch with that. So we'll see what actually happens. I'm sure all the reports and the rumors, it's just a small window of like one or two or a handful of people's view on a big project, right? So who knows what's actually happening, but I'd love to see what Apple does there with actually releasing something. So, yes, great. Lots of good get well soon messages for George. Yes, he broke 3 ribs and his collarbone. Ouch. Yeah. So on a biking accident. But yeah, on that note, back to the Formula One stuff. But I think in large part, that long thing aside, Lackland, I think is your name. I do largely agree with you. I just don't know when we'll actually see all those updates. It might not be the next event. It might be sometime soon, maybe even as late as like spring 2026. But there's still lots of other companies making a lot of cool stuff, new things coming to smart home tech, even if Apple isn't doing as much right now on their end. Let's see. So Formula One, Robert was bringing up some questions about Formula One. And of course, we have on the Apple side of things, we have the new Formula One movie coming. It's basically out, for a lot of people, depending on what's available. I have tickets to go see it tomorrow night, so I'm really excited. My wife and I are going to go see it in an IMAX theater, which will be nice to get that big screen effect. But one of the cool things that Apple was showing around WWDC that you might have seen is that they built, one of the I should know as a Formula One fan what part of the car this is called, but anyways, one of the wings, I think it is on the car, has a iPhone camera built into it, right? So Apple makes lots of cameras with the iPhone, and they were able to kind of reconfigure those parts and build in a camera into this wing of their F1 car. Of course, this is a revised previous generation F1 car that they used to film this and pretend like it's a real team. It's not a real F1 car racing in races the same year it ran on the track, although they did do a lot of filming in and around real races to give, from what I understand, a really good effect of like actually being in a race. And yeah, you can see here an iPad hooked up to the camera, so that's what it looks like. They also have, came out after the live stream last week, they launched on Friday an Apple Vision Pro immersive experience where in this exact car, you can ride around the Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi with Brad Pitt. So the Yas Marina circuit is the final race of the year in the F1 schedule. It's usually a big race and kind of deciding the final standings of different teams and drivers. And it was fun to be able to ride around that circuit. I did that with my Apple Vision Pro. Apparently, it is something too that is loaded and ready, or is something you can check out if you want to go into an Apple retail store and just try on an Apple Vision Pro and try this if you're into Formula One or just want to see what that looks like to be in a race car like that. You're sitting next to Brad Pitt, so you're not actually like feeling like you're driving it. You feel like you're in a camera on the side of the car, right? So, and it's also a funny thing where it doesn't feel quite very sharp compared to some immersive video. I don't know how it differs and how they were filming. It doesn't feel quite as like crisp of video clarity, but it's still really a great thing. Although also I will say I'm someone who like never gets motion sick. I never get issues with motion sickness with VR, Apple Vision Pro, etc. But after that, I was kind of like, wow, maybe I do feel a little motion sick. So if you do get motion sick from things like VR, just a word of caution that myself, I never get that. And I felt that a little bit after watching this video. So keep that in mind. But yeah, so the F1 movie's coming out. Maybe you've already seen it. Maybe you'll be seeing it soon, if it's something of interest to you. I love watching Formula One as a sport. And I'd encourage you, if you're not into it, no worries. But this is a channel about smart home tech and Apple, not about Formula One. But of course, Apple just made a Formula One movie, so that's why it's kind of coming up tonight. Yeah, and I think it's there's a lot of good explainer videos on YouTube about what Formula One is, what it isn't. I'd say it's in a lot of ways very different than a lot of other forms of racing. There's a lot of science and technology behind making the cars be able to do what they do, and it's just as much a competition between the engineers in the different teams as it is the drivers. The engineers all have to show up and build slightly different, unique approaches to hard physics problems to get that extra tenth of a second to beat the other team. And so it's fun in that respect. And I also like, as a sport, I find it relatively easy enough to follow. Sometimes a sport has so many different games and so many different things. It's like a huge time commitment to try and keep up with it. And Formula One has a bunch of races, but there's only, I think, 26 in a year, something like that. And they go to cool places in the world. It's hard because of the time zones, right? It's never going to always be ideal. No matter where you live in the world, it's not always going to be a good time for you to watch a race, but you can always watch it after the fact. And yeah, it's easy enough for me as a busy person to follow in terms of sports. So yeah, but that's Formula One. And even if you're not into it, it seems like this movie is something that would be fun. Oh, cool. We got some folks who've seen it. So much action and seeing the actual drivers from F1. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, because they did film a lot with the real drivers. And a lot of the real drivers went to the premiere. It was all over Instagram when that happened. All right. So another thing back more to smart home tech. I'll be talking about this more soon on my channel. I know Shane and some other creators in the chat have talked a lot about this platform, but Homey, of course, they have the Homey Pro, which is pretty expensive. I think it's $300 or $400. So now they have the lower cost $200 Homey Pro Mini, which loses the Z-Wave radio and it loses the Wi-Fi connection, but you're still able to, connect it to your smart home and have it run a lot of automations in your home. And as you might know, Homey was acquired by LG, so they have a bigger corporate sponsor backing them now. They're not going to go out of business tomorrow. And the Homey Pro Mini is available for pre-order. And it says here, expected to ship April 2025. I think, I've just been getting ready to play with one. I can't remember. Maybe someone can chime in the chat. Maybe they've already started shipping. Maybe there's someone in the chat who's using one right now. But I do know that it's, something to keep an eye out for in the coming weeks. Hopefully I can say that. Anyways, on another note, speaking of something going away, Apple has come out and said that in macOS 27, right? So the release coming this fall is macOS Tahoe 26 to follow the calendar 2026 year coming up. Of course, then the release after that most likely will be called macOS 27, as Apple's implying here with this announcement. And they clarified that the next version of macOS, I guess Apple didn't actually say macOS 27, but the next version of macOS will not work with Apple's time capsule feature. So if you have an old airport time capsule from Apple, these were devices that had a hard drive built in, or do have a hard drive built in, and have Wi-Fi. So you can have them as the main router or a access point on your network. And then your Macs can see them very easily and back up to them as Time Machine, which then means if you need to restore your Mac, get a new Mac, etc., you can pull all the data from your backup off of the time capsule and put it onto your new computer or repaired computer. And yeah, I miss Time Capsule. I think they were incredibly user-friendly. The UNAS Pro that I talked about previously on my channel does have some similar features, but is obviously part of a much more complex ecosystem with Ubiquiti. There are other solutions out there, and Synology has some with their drives. You can also do stuff with a Mac Mini or other, just a Mac on your network sharing a drive that can be shared as a shared time machine drive. So there are different ways to slice it, but yeah, just something to keep in mind with future planning as you're looking at what do you need to upgrade. If you still have a Time Capsule, probably time to move on one of these days soon. So, all right, that's a bunch of the news and things I wanted to cover. Want to see... oh, nice. You're seeing... Yeah, is Australia, it's another time zone. So you're seeing F1 and IMAX in 3 hours. Nice. So enjoy. That should be fun. Hey, Johnny, I have 150 HomeKit devices, 100 Wi-Fi, and the rest Thread and Bluetooth. I went through the pain of moving them to a VLAN, okay, and things seem to be more responsive. All right. Should hubs be in the same VLAN or the VLAN with trusted devices? I'm assuming what you mean by trusted device VLAN is like where your computers are and things that are not smart home tech. I would put the bridges, so I don't do a separate VLAN for smart home. I think it's more trouble than it's worth, but I know there's plenty of very smart people out there who prefer this approach and recommend it. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea, right? Just not what I would do. But if I was doing that, I would put the hubs on the smart home VLAN because they're going to be talking a lot with the smart home devices. You might have a little bit slower or issues accessing them from, let's say, your computer. But if they're really dedicated smart home bridges, then I don't think that's a big deal. If you have something like Synology or a Mac Mini server, something running a bunch of Docker containers or things, then it might get a little bit tricky there, where you kind of maybe also want that for quick access to a network drive or something. So, yeah. Overall, hopefully that answers it. But I just put them on the same VLAN as the smart home tech. What would you say is a feature you're wishing for and believe is realistic? Oh, interesting. Sprinkler automations. Okay. I'm guessing you're talking about high resolution for HomeKit secure video, Lachlan. Yeah, I think really the big thing for me is the smart home display. I think having a dedicated piece of display hardware will be so nice in so many different levels. And I wouldn't be surprised if Apple has some clever ways they pull it off where there are a lot of benefits to being a family that has a bunch of Apple devices, and then you also have this in a central living place in your home. So that's really what I'm kind of excited for, is that setup. But we'll see. We'll see what actually comes. With higher resolution, with HomeKit Secure Video, I know a lot of people want this, and I can see why. George Langabeer in the chat, he's been a proponent of 4K for HomeKit Secure Video for a long time, really wanting it. And I think there's some definite advantages to be able to see details more clearly. at the same time, though, the current video quality in HomeKit Secure Video, in my experience, is so highly compressed that I think in certain ways, like, I'd almost love to just see like less compression and 2K video instead of going to 4K. Just because sometimes I think details get lost with how heavily compressed the video is in HomeKit Secure Video compared to something like I look at recordings of my Ubiquiti Unify, right? And seeing that versus something that's gone through HomeKit Secure Video, it's like night and day, even in a camera that's, let's say, 2K. So I think that's something that I can understand why people want it. I just, back to the whole LLM powered voice assistant at the beginning, I think it's one of those things where you might be wishing for something, thinking it will give you video quality that it won't. So we'll see. But I think eventually Apple really has to do it because so many of their competitors in cloud video will be doing it, and it'll just be kind of a spec on a sheet that they can't match. And I think eventually they'll do it. It's just a question of when. And of course, at their scale, that's a huge increase in the amount of data that they have to handle. So they got to be ready for that. All right. So yeah, I agree. Multiple people using the Apple display will be really nice. All right. So let's see. As far as like things I'm playing with that I can talk about right now, there's one of the things I'm excited to play with that I haven't tried yet, but I recently got, is the Ubiquiti Unify portal device. It's like the little HDMI connection for a display. And I have a display over in my server closet in the basement that I'm going to hook up to the portal. And it'll be nice to have like this always on display of all my Unify cameras. And you can just go in there. If you think you hear a funny sound in the house or whatever, you can just go in there and see it all on the screen. So we'll see. It'll probably work its way into some some videos that I'm working on right now. But yeah, that's a fun little gadget that was like in stock finally for me, and was able to grab that. Although I think now it's probably still in stock. Let me pull this page up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Not the AI port. I already have that. It's the Protect View port. That's what it's called. Yeah, so this is what I'm getting, or what I have. I need to set it up. But yeah. So you can run PoE in, and then you have HDMI out, and then you can pass through the Ethernet if you need to, which is kind of clever, little cool feature. But yeah, you can hook this up to a TV, and then you should get persistent feeds of your video. So we'll see how it actually works, but I'm excited to play with it. And then let's see, what else do I have going on? Always playing with some more details around my home theater. I've been playing with the new Hisense projector, not new in the sense of like it just came out, but like one that is new to me. It's really impressive, has really nice brightness. It's the Hisense C2 Ultra. It's made for Xbox, and yeah, great picture, a lot of fun. I also really like this. Is my first projector that I played with. It has the optical zoom, which really does make a difference. Where it can then optically shrink or expand the image to better fit where it's trying to project, as opposed to just kind of messing with the, cutting out a spot on the initial projection. So, and it's a really great response rate, of course, for things like gaming, but more what I care about is just the better brightness. It's just so much clearer and brighter, and that's just really nice. So, it's a fun little, like, slightly portable package, although I have mine mounted. But yeah, it should be another fun thing that I'm playing with. So, love to hear in the chat if you guys have any other things you're playing with. George, the Protect Viewport, I don't think it gives you anything more than their Apple TV app. So theoretically, for $200, right, you could go buy an Apple TV. I want to play with it and see if it does give me anything, like a better refresh rate of the video or anything. But right now, I don't know. I like the idea of it being very purpose built for this, right? You're not going to end up going to the Apple TV home screen. It's just there. But for the reason that you're mentioning, right? The Apple TV app for Unify Protect is really good. And I don't feel a need to put these viewports all over my home. But I did want to play with it as sort of I think it's an interesting kind of product that Unify has and gives you this ability. So we'll see how it actually works out. But you're right. You bring up a good point that, like, technically you don't need something like this, especially if you have an Apple TV with their app. It, in a lot of cases, it'll probably be fine. Like, for example, we have an Apple TV and a TV we recently added in our bedroom. And of course, if we're at night, hear something, we could pull up the Unify Protect cameras in the bedroom. The other thing I liked about this potentially is if it's purpose-built and always on, it makes it easy for anybody in the home to use this as a quick reference of what's going on. So if a babysitter's here, they can go down and see that if they hear some unusual sound, something like that. It's easy for anybody to keep an eye on. But again, that's kind of an edge case. Oh, thank you. Again, great, smart people in the chat who have been there, done that. With the viewport, you have to change HDMI inputs. Or the Protect app, I just run the app. Okay. Yeah. So my point is that the only thing connected to this display, it's just a small computer monitor, but the only thing connected to it will be the viewport. Right. So, like, that's always going to be there. But you're right. If you're trying to connect this to and I think that's really the purpose of it, is like an enterprise, an office, maybe where you want to have a persistent screen with camera footage. I don't think it's really meant for as much like, let's say you hook it up to your TV as an additional HDMI input. Like, I can see why you might try that or check it out, but, like, I could also see how, like you're saying, Doug, it maybe isn't as easy as if you already had the Apple TV there. You could just switch over to that. So, yeah, thanks, George. I think you see where I'm coming from, but we'll see how it actually turns out. And right. Um, well, that's if you have it in Apple Home Sol. So then you could pop it up there. But yeah, totally. Doug, that's along the lines of what I'm going for. It's just kind of like it's there as an always on viewport into your security system. Doesn't mean you can't get to it other ways, other places, but could be nice if you have an old monitor lying around that you want to put to use. You could use this, but yeah, especially it sounds like, Doug, if you already have a viewport. Oh, yeah, good question, Brian. Thanks for bringing up the Nintendo Switch. You know, I haven't logged a ton of hours gaming. To be honest, I've been pretty busy. I'm always like, I guess you could say like classic dad energy, or you know, older guy energy, whatever. I'm stereotyping there, but it's who I am. Basically meaning what I mean by that is like I'm always into the tech of getting the latest and greatest equipment, right? So I got the new Switch, but I have a like amazing and filled life with all kinds of other stuff, including this YouTube channel that I just don't have a lot of time to sit down and play a lot of games. It was a fun way to connect with a friend. The other night we were playing Mario Kart, and that was fun. And he actually got one of the cameras, so it was fun to like see that whole camera system where Nintendo launched a little camera for multiplayer view. So that was cool. But overall, like I haven't played a ton of Mario Kart. I mean, I've played through most of the courses, but not all of them. So I haven't like completed all of the racetracks in Mario Kart yet, but I have played a bunch of them. You know, the new Switch is really nice compared to the old one, especially compared to the original Switch. I have played with in the past the Switch OLED, and then I ended up selling that. It was, I would say, if I still had the Switch OLED and then I got this, I might not be like overwhelmed over the moon with like the upgrade, other than the fact that it now has access, you know, to games on a different level, right? Like the Mario Kart world, just it looks so much better graphically, and like you get so many more capabilities, which is like a more powerful game console. So, yeah, I think it's a really cool console, and I think it's a nice upgrade for Nintendo, but I think it's not something where like if you have the original, you should feel like, oh, I must upgrade. Or it's also not something where like I've heard people say like compare it to the Steam Deck, right? Everybody seems to love the Steam Deck. I do not have one, but they seem like really cool gaming devices. My brother-in-law has one and raves about it all the time. And I've heard other people say similar things. So I don't think this is like a Steam Deck killer or anything like that. It's just not even playing in the same space, in my view, other than just simply portable gaming, right? Like, which are you going to take with you on a trip? I don't know. It's a good question. Probably depends on the person and the time frame of when they're doing that. But yeah, it's a really cool device. I think it's a nice upgrade for Nintendo. And it's also like, I like the, I got the updated like little steering wheels for Mario Kart, which is fun. The kids like playing that way. So like the kids have played a little bit of Mario Kart where they can move the steering wheel and kind of move the car that way. And I think it's easier for them to understand than the joysticks. So that's been kind of fun to have a little bit of like that kind of family time with it. And I'm certainly going to get good use out of it. I don't feel like, you know, I wasted my money, but it's just, I haven't been able to like dive into it for hours and hours on end. It's just not kind of the life I live. So anyway. Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, everybody loves the PS5. Of course, I in that generation jumped on Team Xbox, which now I'm like, what's even going on with the Xbox at this point? Like, I don't know. I should have picked Team PS5. Next time around with the bigger consoles, maybe I'll get the Sony version. So the thing I like, speaking of that, is I like with the Formula One. I have the new Formula One game, and on that, what I like is I like to try and drive each Formula One racetrack before that weekend's race, just because it's a nice way to contextually understand like how the racetrack is laid out, which is sometimes hard to understand when you're looking at it on the broadcast. Of course, there's been some Apple Vision Pro attempts at like making like a 3D model of things and doing some cool stuff like that, and that could be cool too. I just find like doing the track yourself it's a nice way to make the weekend race more engaging, because like you've done it a little bit yourself. But I don't do like a season or anything in the Formula One game. I just do time trials of just like running through the race. So and I'm not very good, but I just enjoy it. It's a fun, relaxing kind of thing to do. And that's also where I love, I mentioned in my Switch setup video, I love like the option with headsets, although I returned that Turtle Beach one that I tried in that video. But like just having something where I can listen to podcasts and do one of those racetracks, like that's a nice way to chill out, right? Like you can do a racetrack for half an hour, 45 minutes, listen to some podcasts while you're driving the car around the racetrack, and it's a nice way to spend some time. Yeah, the Vision Pro is an Xbox. Everything's an Xbox now. So, yes. It wouldn't be a stream without you, buddy. Waterbottle 365, thanks for tuning in. But no worries if you can't make it. But love to have you here. So, yes. Anyways, well, we've been going for a little while now. Oh man, and I usually like to leave you with a YouTube video, something that I've watched recently that has nothing to do with, usually not much to do with smart home tech, right? But like is something I think is fun to check out. And I don't know. I'm looking through my YouTube history right now, and I watch like a lot of different things just because I want to keep up with YouTube and check out different creators. But there's not really anything I'm like, oh yeah, you guys should check this out. So I'm sure there are lots of other great videos on YouTube, just not anything to like highlight per se right now. So with that, this stream is over. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Bye.